So with the metric system, we actually have two different types of volume measurements. We said that our basic unit for volume was liters. So you might have a graduated cylinder where you actually put the liquid in there, and then you can measure a liquid in milliliters, liters, something like that. However, do you remember back in math when you were doing the volume of a cube or a rectangular prism? There you learned that volume equals length times width times height, right? Where you have the height here, the width here, and the length there, the three different dimensions of the cube. But if length, width, and height are usually measured as a length, right? So this would be, for example, centimeters times centimeters times centimeters. So your volume measurement for a situation like this would be centimeters cubed. There are three of them. So over here we might have something like milliliters, but over here you've got centimeters cubed. Both of these are metric units. So we need to understand how they relate to each other so that we can convert from one to the other, because there are times when we might need them in liters, there's times when we might need them in meters cubed. So let's go ahead and look at this in more detail. The key one that I remember is that 1 milliliter equals 1 centimeter cubed. Okay. If you remember this equality and use it as a conversion factor, then you can figure out all of the others because we know our metric prefixes. Okay? Sometimes centimeters cubed in the medical field will be abbreviated CC, centimeters cubed. So this is the basic equality that we're going to be using when we transfer from one set of units here to another set of units. Let's do an example so that you get practice on doing these types of conversions. I'm going to erase our figures here. I'm going to rewrite our equality so that we have it to use. 1 milliliter equals 1 centimeter cubed. Okay. Now, say you were asked a question like, convert 5,000 with a decimal point microliters to decimeters cubed. Okay. So here we've got the things that we're going to look for is you've got a liter, some type of liters, to some type of meters cubed. That tells you you're going to have to use this type of process that'll involve this conversion factor. Now, you can't memorize other conversion factors. For example, 1 liter equals 1,000 centimeters cubed. But I'm of the opinion that I've got a lot of stuff up here, and I can only memorize so many things. So if I only have one thing to memorize and I have to figure out the rest, that's better for me. So we're going to use this conversion factor whenever possible, and we'll just use the metric units to convert back and forth. So when we're doing any conversion factor, or any conversion between units, we're going to start off with the thing that's not the conversion factor. So we're going to start off with the 5,000 microliters. That's what they give us, and that's a good place to start. It's not a conversion factor. Well, I'm going to go through the thought process with you before starting the actual math, okay? And I'm going to write the thought process down here so that we can then follow it. We have microliters. In order to use this conversion factor, we need milliliters. So we're going to first change the microliters to milliliters. We can do that because this is a metric conversion. Okay? And then once we have milliliters, we've got this conversion factor that can change it to centimeters cubed. Once we have it in centimeters cubed, then we can get it to our final one, which is decimeters cubed. Because again, centi to deci is a metric conversion. There's a trick here, though, that we got to be careful about involving that cubed power, which I'm going to take you through as we work the problem. All right, so let's put up our King Henry doesn't bother drinking chocolate milk. And then remember, from milli to micro, we've got 1,000 difference here. Okay. All right, well, let's go ahead and start off with our microliters. And I'm going to put my little grid in here. We've got micro on the top. So we know to get rid of the microliters, we have to put it on the bottom in order to cancel it out. Well, we want to go from micro to milli, so that means milli has to be on the top. Okay. Now we have to figure out what numbers we put in there. And if we remember our King Henry doesn't bother drinking chocolate milk, our going from milli to micro is a factor of 1,000. We have 1,000 of the little guys, micro being the little guy, he's on the bottom of this list, to 1 of the big guys. 1,000 of the little guys to 1 of the big guys. So now, if we cross out our units, if we ended the calculation right there, the only unit we haven't canceled out is the milliliters. So this answer would be in milliliters. That's not what we're asking for, so we have to keep going. Okay? We said our next step is going to be converting milli to centimeters cubed. And we have that conversion factor right here. So milli's on the top, so where does milli have to be cancel out? It has to be on the bottom. So let's put our milliliters on the bottom and our centimeters cubed on top, and 1 and 1. All right, then let's cancel out our units. We've got milli canceled out with milli. So if we stop there, we'd have centimeters cubed. Again, that's not where we want to be, so we have to keep going. Centimeters cubed, we're going to change it to decimeters cubed. We have to think about how we're going to do that. Well, we know from King Henry doesn't bother drinking chocolate milk that deci and centi are separated by a factor of 10. Okay, so you've got 10 of the centimeters equals 1 of the decimeters. However, we don't have centimeters and decimeters here. We have centimeters cubed. So what we have to do is we have to cube this entire thing. You cube one side, you've got to cube the other side. So we have 10 cubed, which is 10 times 10 times 10. That is 1,000 centimeters cubed equals 1 times 1 times 1. Well, that's 1 decimeter cubed. Okay, this is the conversion factor that we have to put up here. So we've got centimeters cubed on top, so where does centimeters cubed have to be in order to cancel out? Well, it has to be on the bottom. So we're going to put our centimeters cubed from down here. We have 1,000 of them, to every 1 decimeter cubed. Okay. Now our units can cancel out. Centimeters cubed cancels out with centimeters cubed. Keep in mind, centimeters cubed will not cancel out with centimeters. That's why we had to cube our conversion factor, so that we could get the units to match up. Now, if the only units that we didn't cancel out in this whole entire thing is the decimeters cubed. So if we finish our problem now, that would be the answer. And that is exactly what we were asked for. So we know we're on the right track. So we'll put our equal sign. Our answer is going to be in decimeters cubed. And we'll put this in the calculator. 5,000 times 1 times 1 times 1 divided by 1,000 divided by 1 divided by 1,000. Okay. When we put that in our calculator, we'll get 0.005 We're not done yet, because what is that one question that we need to ask before we move on to a new question? Significant figures. Always significant figures. So we need to figure out our significant figures. This number, because that decimal point, that means that the zeros are significant. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 significant figures. This is a metric conversion, so those are exact numbers. Metric conversion, those are exact numbers. So our answer needs to have 4 significant figures. As it's written here, it only has 1 significant figure. Remember, those leading zeros, they don't count. So we have to rewrite this so that it should have 4 significant figures. Okay. So our final answer would have to look like 0.005123. So now it has 1, 2, 3, 4 significant figures. And of course, don't forget our units, and we're recopying it to our final answer. Another way of doing this is to change the scientific notation. We move this over 1, 2, 3 spots. Scientific notation would be 5.000 times 10 to the negative third decimeters cubed. Remember, everything in the coefficient of the scientific notation is significant. So there's no question here which of the zeros are significant and which aren't. And you can clearly see there's 4 positions there. So 4 significant figures. So do make sure, come back to this video if you have any of these conversions that you're having problems with. The biggest part of this is making sure we convert the milliliters to centimeters cubed. Converting between the two set of volume units within the metric system.